Hello and welcome! This is Gunner, and we're back some more BattleTech and my continued look at the backer beta build and the single-player skirmish mode found within. For this video, I'll be doing another Lance build, like I've done many times in the past, and this build is inspired from the last well-rounded build that I did in that series. And with that build, I diverged quite a bit from the tactics I'd used in the past, and with that I realized that the well-rounded builds were not just a way of building a lance, it was also a strategy as well. A very rigid stand and fight kind of strategy. And although that's a valid tactic to use, it's not the only tactic you can use. So as a result, these builds I'm going to be doing, and I might do a few here. I'm going to start with the Clash budget, and I might move up to the other budget levels. It's going to be a little bit more interesting as we go up into the higher budget levels where we're using heavier mechs. At this level, it's a little trickier just because of the kind of weight of mechs you're going to be using. But I still think it'd be fun to take a look at this, and it's been a while since I've done the lighter mechs, so I'd like to jump back into that anyway. For the strategy I'm going to be using is what I consider the Skirmish strategy. And it's going to be much more of a fluid mobility focused strategy. And rather than have 3 roles like we did in the well-rounded builds, I'm going to pare that down to 2 roles. And the roles, one of them that is going to come from that well-rounded build or be shared is the support mechs. And the role for the support mechs is going to be roughly the same, although again, it's going to be a little bit more about mobility, so there's going to be a focus on that. And because I only have 2 roles, there's going to be a little bit more multi-role usage in this particular build strategy. The other role I call the attacker role. You could also call it an ambusher if you choose. And this is going to be a merging of the scout and frontline role, but you're really taking away the frontline element of it. So it's more like a usage of a scout, or making the scout role a little bit more all-encompassing or fluid. And part of the inspiration of this is I do realize that there's some mechs that just really don't fit into the very rigid, well-rounded build structure. Mechs like a Quick Draw, for example, they fit this attacker role, in my opinion, a lot better than they would a frontline role or a scout role. They could, but they'd suffer in some way or another. They're not perfect for those roles. So by making this attacker role have a little bit more fluidity, you can get mechs like that to, I think, play a little bit more in their strengths. With that being said, let's go over what the attacker role is all about. So partly it's about mobility. And a lot of it's strategy, too. The way you're going to be using these mechs is very important. So the mentality of the attacker is that you're going to wait back in an ambush using terrain and the line of sight that you have, blocking line of sight where you can, to be able to bring the enemy into attacking angles. You're going to attack, and then you're going to fade back, you're going to get new positions, and you're going to constantly move and attack. And that's the mentality of this whole strategy. It's constant movement and readjustment and trying to take advantage of the terrain that you have to be able to attack at the enemy and hopefully give them limited opportunities to counterattack you. With that being said, what I look for attacker outside of the mobility is I look for strong firepower. Again, this is about ambushing, so I want to have a single turn of good firepower, and then I want the ability to disengage. That is what we're looking for in an attacker. So some things that were important for the well-rounded build are not quite as important with this build. For example, having a mech that runs hot isn't as bad of a problem for this particular build because you're supposed to hit and then fade away. Hit and then fade away. And while you're fading back, you will have that opportunity to cool off a little bit. So running hot isn't as big of a problem. Also, armor isn't as important because you're not standing and fighting, you're not absorbing damage, you're trying to avoid damage with all of the mechs in your lance as much as you possibly can. Armor's still good, but it's not as important. What's really important here is mobility and firepower, at least for the attacker it is. So with the choices that I made for my two attackers is I have a commando and a Jenner. Now, at this budget level, we're working with lighter mechs for sure. And there is shared role with the attacker of the scout role. You're still going to be using the attackers to give you spotting at times, because the other half of the equation is your support mechs. Now, the job of the support mech in this role is to draw the enemy in. You don't want the enemy to choose where the fight happens. You want them to have to come to you. And that's what the support mechs are all about. And that's why there's an emphasis on support mechs in this particular strategy. You want to be able to batter them at long range. If they don't want to come into your ambushes, you're going to make them want to. So that's what the long range attacking ability of the supports is all about. All right, with that being said, the mechs I chose a commando here. Now, this makes me fall quite a bit under the budget level, and I could very easily jump into a fire starter. And the fire starter would fit this role, technically speaking, with the mobility, but in my opinion, just doesn't have the firepower that I'm looking for an attacker. I'm looking to dish out a lot of damage in that first turn, the engagement turn that we have, and then I want to be able to disengage. Now, the commando doesn't quite have the mobility the fire starter has, and that may be a little bit of a liability at this weight level that we have, at this budget level where we have a lot of lighter mechs. The commando might be outrun, so this is a little bit of a risk. The fire starter would be a little bit less vulnerable to that, but as I said, the idea here of the attacker is to dish out damage. So that's why I've chosen the commando. I think it fits the role a little bit better. The pilot I've chosen is Showboat. Showboat is not only going to give me evasion charges with her evasive movement ability, she also has okay gunnery skill for a scout, and then she has the sensor lock ability, which is very important. We need to be able to give our support mechs line of sight, and I think the commando is a good mech to do that. When we are waiting for our enemy to come to us, we can use our sensor lock ability to give us an advantage. Moving on, we have the Jenner, which I consider to be a very good mech for this. You've got the strong firepower of the SRM-4 and the 4 medium lasers. If I didn't already say, Commando has very strong firepower, 2 SRM-based weapons, an SRM-6 and SRM-4, and a medium laser. Very good firepower for a light mech. The Jenner has the added advantage of jump jets and a little bit more mobility, but durability is not its strong point, and it is a hot running mech. But as I said, not as important with the attacker role. Moving on, we have our support mechs. So I have the Panther, which is going to have a PPC and SRM-4. So mostly we're going to be focusing on the PPC to give us a long-range firepower. The problem with the particular build that I'm showcasing here is we have pretty much direct fire support, so that is going to limit our ability to attack our enemies at range, because we're going to need that direct line to our enemies. So that might be a little bit problematic for our strategy, but unfortunately at this particular budget level and with what mechs I have to use, I have to make some compromises. So that's going to be one of our support mechs. And then our other support mech is going to be the Vindicator. We have a little bit more armor. We have a little bit more close range firepower with the medium laser and small laser, although it's only marginally better. We have an LRM-5, which is going to aid our long range firepower a little bit, give us a little bit of an indirect fire choice if we want, although not much of one, and a PPC. And again, this is going to be our main damage here. And both the Panther and the Vindicator have jump jets, so as much as they don't have as much speed as the Commando or the Jenner do, they do have jump jets, so that does allow them to reposition and use mobility to initiate the strategy we're trying to do. As far as pilots go, for the Jenner, I have Paradise. Paradise is going to give us, yet again, evasion charges, also giving us the Angel of Death ability, which is going to increase our jumping distance. We can also use this for Death from Above attacks, but I probably won't be using that. And his important thing is he's got decent gunnery skill, which we're definitely going to want to use from time to time. Gut skill could be better for the Jenner, but I think otherwise I like the abilities that we have here. I could choose another scout pilot, so we have yet another sensor lock ability, but I already have another pilot that has that, and that's Kraken. Now, Kraken has been chosen mostly for his gunnery skill, very high there. Has the sensor lock ability and multi-target ability. We more than likely won't be using the multi-target ability. Now, I could switch that over to the Vindicator, but with the pilot we have here, Apex will have the multi-target ability anyway, but we also have the breaching shot ability, which is going to allow us, if we only use the PPC or if we only use the LRM-5, to burn through the guard or cover statuses that our opponent may have. All right, with all that being said, let's jump right in here. My opponent, I purposely chose an opponent that had a great deal of mobility themselves because I wanted to test this build. Because this build is about mobility, if I had an opponent that was slow, this would be fairly easy to do. With an opponent that's a little bit faster, like my opponent here, it might be tough to pull off, especially my commando might be at risk. So I think that's important to do. Now, I did switch out one of the pilots that the preset had. I believe this is the cavalry preset. I swapped out the pilot that was in the Jenner for Witness because that pilot had multi-target, and as I've discussed in the past, there's a bug with the game right now where the multi-target ability causes some issues. So we're just going only in the AI though. When you use it, it's fine, but when the AI uses it, it tends to break rules. So, all right, let's go ahead and jump in here. I'm going to be using the river crossing, my usual map when I'm testing things out because it's the map that I know the best and I've played the most. And this initial video is going to be a test of concept. I have not tested this out at all, so we'll have to see exactly how effective it is. I think it's going to be trickier to pull off at this budget level just because of our opponent is likely going to have strong mobility just like we do. Once you get up to medium, heavy, and so on weight classes, this strategy is more interesting because your opponent's less likely to bring mobility with them. So you can tailor your lance for the strategy, and your opponent might not be really prepared to deal with it. All right, with that being said, I think I'm going to send the Jenner on over this way. I don't want Paradise to go out too far, though, so right here is fine with me. Okay, now we're going to take our commando.
I hear ya.
Now, ideally, I want to be able to set up ambushes here, so I think I'm going to put my commando over here. Now, my opponent could just flank over in this direction and kind of spoil some of that, but we could always reposition. It's not that big of a deal. We have decently mobile mechs. Okay, let's go ahead and put you like that. And we could have even gone in the woods here, but the idea here is not to give my opponent a direct line of sight. So in this case, I could move further forward if I wanted to, because again, this is about mobility, so we could back off as the need presents itself. But for now, I think I'm going to go into this woods here. Ooh, I can't quite angle the way I want to, so instead I'm going to move right about there. So that puts our Panther in place. Let's go ahead and grab our Vindicator, and I'll put her right in there. Let's aim a little bit this way in case our opponent does indeed try and flank over here. Now, from what I've seen of the AI, they have a habit of focusing more on where your mechs are, but I have seen some changes with their behavior lately, so we'll have to see exactly how that goes. We might get initial contact here because we are faster mechs, which we did indeed. Okay. Now, I didn't pay too close attention to what my opponent has outside of just seeing that it was fitting what I was looking for, at least in capabilities. I believe it was a Locust, a Firestarter Jenner, and a Griffin, if I remember correctly. All right, so we don't know what that is, probably because Paradise is the one seeing it, and Paradise I don't think he has that great of a tactics ability. All right, so in this case, they have separated out a little bit here, and I think I may be able to get a good shot on this guy. Unfortunately, with the way the hill is, I might not be able to, so we're going to have to think this one through. So they have one mech that's going to have an initiative advantage on me. I think I'm going to go ahead and reserve in this case, and let's see what they're going to do. So this was their mech that already went, I'm guessing, because they went forward.
Looks like we have guests.
As a matter of fact, you usually want to reserve with this strategy. You want to wait for the enemy, see what they're going to do, and then respond to what the enemy does. Now, because my opponent has an initiative advantage on me, I very well could have chosen Arc Light for one of my pilots to give them a little bit more hit and run capability. But because my opponent has a little bit of an initiative advantage on me, or at least parity with me, it's going to be a little bit harder to pull off hit and run attacks. But I think our main target our focus is going to be on this mech here, which I'm going to assume is the Griffin.
Waiting for orders.
So what I'd like to do is be able to move and keep my opponent within sensor range. This is probably fine here, because if that is indeed the medium mech, which I assume that it is, we should be able to continue to move here, and we have built up some evasion charges.
Got it.
Our support mechs are going to be more able to attack this mech here. This mech's going to be a little bit problematic. We're going to have to figure that one out. Go ahead and sensor lock here. Okay, so was I correct? Is that a Griffin? That is indeed the Griffin.
How might I help?
All right, so in this case, I really don't think I want to stick here too much. So what I could do is I could move into the woods here. Fortunately, I'd give my opponent a very easy flank on me, perhaps. Could it sprint as well? So this strategy does require quite a bit of patience as well. All right, so I'm going to sprint in around.
Of course.
Probably going to lose sensor contact with some of our enemy, but that's okay. All right, now the important bits, the support mechs.
Ready for orders.
We should have our direct line of fire. I'm going to go ahead and move back a little bit.
On it.
And let's go ahead and start attacking here. So this isn't going to be a high chance to hit. And I'm using Kraken first because we could use Apex breaching shot ability to allow us to do a little bit more damage. So we want to burn through these evasion charges if we can.
Target.
All right, we did manage to hit there, so that's good damage. Now for the Vindicator, move her in around here. We could actually move up and maybe get this guy a little bit closer so we have a better chance to hit him.
Moving out.
Okay, so what we're going to be wanting to fire is just one of our weapons. So I'm going to turn off the LRM-5 in this case. Even though it is the better chance to hit. The PPC is going to do more damage, so we're going to fire that.
Go.
Hopefully we'll get a hit here. We did manage to get a hit, so that's full damage there. That's going to be their most durable mech, so if we can take it out, all the better. So at this point, Showboat is in a position
Commander.
where she could be vulnerable. So in this case, I'm going to continue moving with her. I'd like to get over to this wooded terrain over here, but that's okay if we don't. And we'll sensor lock up the Griffin again. Which is fine because the Griffin, is being a medium mech, is going to be acting last. So we can burn through that last of evasion charge and then go from there. Now that might not have been the best move, but it was a move that was open to me. So at this point, we're going to want to use Kraken, perhaps,
Standing by.
to attack the Griffin, which I will do.
On it.
We have a high chance to hit him now. Unfortunately, it is reducing damage. Our Jenner, on the other hand, is going to reserve. Here comes the Griffin. Now the Griffin's going to be extremely hard to hit. Now in this case, I have to start thinking about
Reporting.
backing up a little bit here. Now I could attack with my Jenner, but the Jenner would be vulnerable to a counterattack by light mechs. We could move into the woods here, still have an attack on our opponent, which is not a bad idea, I don't think. I think we're going to go for this. There is a possibility that that mech there will be able to counterattack us, but I think this is a worthwhile attack here.
As you wish.
And we could punish that mech if it indeed does that. And we have cover, we have some evasion charges, so I am going to fire everything we have here, because more than likely I'll be disengaging in my next turn. We're going to do what damage we can, burn through some evasion charges. Okay, now for Apex. The idea here is we're going to want to move back and use our mobility to kind of fade away
Moving to into position.
So in this case, I'm going to use my single PPC, more than likely. And we're going to fire away here.
Engaging target.
Unfortunately, we missed, even though we had a decent chance to hit him. Okay, so it looks like we're going to be able to get away with the Jenner, which is fine. Oh, no, Locust is going to come in. Does it have an attack? I think it would have probably had to have
You have orders?
sprinted to do that kind of movement. Now, we could focus on the Locust. The Locust would be able to counterattack me, and my chance of hitting it is fairly low, but I think we're going to go ahead and retreat, because that's the strategy that we go for. I don't want to necessarily give my back, though, so I'm going to jump instead, giving us a strong evasion.
Here we go.
Going to build up some heat, but as we won't be doing anything else this turn, we'll just be bracing. Makes me nice and well protected. Okay, so we've got a flanker over there, but that means the enemy is quite spread out. All right, at this point, we're going to want to move back with our commando, as we're starting to get in a little bit of a position where we might be in trouble. So let's start backing out. We will be out in the open, so that could be bad. I'm going to face like this, making it less likely this guy will be able to get my back, although the Griffin might be able to get my back. So, I guess I'll move more this direction. Hopefully that Griffin won't be able to get the commandos back. It's possible, though. Okay, let's go ahead and sensor lock up. So this is a strategy that's much more about positioning and patience. Fortunately, we're going to take some damage on our Panther. It's time to back up for the Panther for sure.
Minor damage.
Now, it might have been more in my advantage to wait with Commando and sensor lock
Receiving you.
later. All right, so what I'm looking for here, I might even jump in this turn. So I want a direct line of sight. It doesn't have to be a great one. Yeah, over here is pretty good. So we'll jump all the way over here, turn back around, and we'll fire off our PPC. We should have a decent shot. And this is why the opponent I chose is problematic, because they do have the mobility to come and attack me. If this was a slower opponent, I would have been able to fade away with no problem. Fortunately, they weren't able to establish line of sight on me, so my Vindicator should be able to back up effectively. And then open up with whatever weapons we want to use. In this case, I think we're going to fire just the PPC yet again. Turn off the medium laser in this case. So we will do more damage this way, if we hit. Unfortunately, we've been missing.
Missed.
Here comes an attack, but it didn't have a very good chance of hitting. We had a lot of evasion charges, and even if it did, we have our cover. As a matter of fact, this is a good turn to reserve, because my opponent could attack me, but their target is fairly bad, except for on the commando, of course, which we're probably going to see happen now. No, okay, the opponent shut down. They're going to go after the Vindicator, which is fine because the Vindicator has decent armor. Okay, in this case, we can make some choices, but I think the obvious choice here is to take advantage of a shutdown mech if we can. So I'm going to go ahead and just move to do that. So we'll run over to the fire starter and dump our weapons into him at close range. And what do we want to take out here? More than likely, we're going to want to go for a torso section because I think we remove more weapons that way. So we are on the right side, so I'm going to go for the right torso here and fire away.
Commencing alpha strike.
Okay, we did manage to succeed at that, so we just eliminated a good percentage of the weapons of our opponent. We might want to continue going after the Firestarter and try and kill him, but I might also have to address... Okay, they're going after my Jenner again. Unfortunately, did manage to hit, but despite our evasion charges. Okay, so now we have our choice to make with our Jenner. I could jump, and now I'm in heat problems, so that probably isn't the best idea, especially as we're not attacking even. Another choice is I could go over and attack. Honestly, I think I should attack here, so I'm going to move. And we're going to choose an opponent here. I'm giving line of sight of a number of opponents. I don't think I could get in range to actually attack that Firestarter effectively. So we're going to move up this way. And this will give me line of sight, but it will also allow me to determine which of these mechs is the best one to go after. And honestly, we have two very good targets. The Jenner is going to be a weaker target. We probably might want to focus on it. The Griffin, if we take it out now, will mean good things for us later, but it does have the best armor here. The Jenner is in a really vulnerable position here, though, because it has very few evasion charges. It's running pretty hot. And my two support mechs should be able to beeline attack it. So, you know what? I think that's what we're going to go for. We're going to look for taking out opponents. So, I'm going to make that decision. Let's go ahead and fire off. I'm going to not fire the SRM-4 so we can save ourselves a little bit of heat.
Target acquired and locked in.
Okay, good hits there. Managed to weaken both arms, so if we can get a hit on either arm, that will be very effective for us. So, in this case,
Standing by.
we're going to continue to fade away, as that is the strategy behind this. I'm going to look to go after the Jenner, as that is already the target I've decided. And once I go after the Jenner with my Panther, I will be able to follow up. Unfortunately, we missed there, which is really not good. We've not gotten good luck with our targeting here, but in this case, the Jenner doesn't really have any... Oh, I want to turn on the medium laser and the LRM-5. Okay, so that should be good positioning for us to be able to fire all of our weapons at that Jenner. Now, I really needed that Panther to land. Let's face a little bit more so that we're harder to flank. I didn't really consider the Firestarter too much, but it's going to spend its turn starting up, so I'll be able to lay into it again with my Commando probably. All right, so we've got all three weapons here being able to fire, and this is a good time to do that.
Firing on target.
Okay, we did manage to get a good hit there. So we did eliminate a good percentage of the Jenner's weapons. Okay, here comes their Locust. Might have the ability to fire a medium laser here. Hopefully it misses. Oh, actually it's going to fire all of its weapons. Most of that missed. Now's the time to retreat with my Jenner, so we're going to go ahead and do that now.
Reporting.
I am very tempted to just run over here and spank the Firestarter before it starts up. And technically I'd be able to get away with that. I would be out in the open. I would have a fair number of evasion charges, though. You know what? I'm going to take this risk. Because if we can take out the Firestarter, all the better. Now, I may not have the heat to be able to pull off this attack. But, hey, you know, it's an opportunity that we've got here. I don't want to overheat, so if I can avoid that... It looks like we're okay if I just fire 3 medium lasers, which would still hurt. I'm going to go for the center torso if I can.
He's going down.
Because we might be able to get a kill here, if we're lucky. Okay, Firestarter is going to start back up, but that's all it's going to be able to do. So now it's going to be Showboat's time. And I'm just going to back up a little bit here. Now, this is a little bit of the problem with light mechs here. To move, you want to keep moving, but to keep moving, oftentimes you have to make some decisions that you might not really like to make. like moving further away from your opponent. I think in this case, I'm going to move like this. And we're going to go ahead and open up on this fire starter again. I don't think the fire starter is going to survive this. And I don't see there's a reason to hold back our firepower. We're going to ensure that we get a kill here. And there's a dead mech. So we're looking pretty good now. Our Jenner might be in a spot where it's vulnerable to a counterattack here. All right, here comes their Jenner. Gonna go after our Vindicator. We're fine with that. The Vindicator is the one mech that we have that is going to be able to tank a little bit for us. Okay, now it's going to be Kraken's turn. Now, I could use the sensor lock ability here to give us a little bit of a better chance at targeting. And I am half tempted to wait for... Yeah, you know what? I'm going to wait. As much as the Panther might be vulnerable here, I'm going to wait for the Griffin to go. It is going to go after a Commando. Fortunately, the large laser missed, and we do have cover, so we are going to be able to reduce that damage down. All right, honestly, between our two opponents here, both are almost equally hard to hit. So,
Receiving you.
in this case, I'm going to back up. Turn to face my enemy. And I think I'm going to go after the Jenner. We're going to try and get a kill here. Not great chances to hit, but we're going to go for him anyway. Did manage to get the big damage, which is the PPC. So the Panther has been making up a little bit for the Vindicator's misses.
Aye, aye.
Alright, so we have a couple different choices. I could go up and punch the Jenner if I really wanted to. But in this case, I think we're going to back off a little bit. And I might use my multi-target ability in this case so that I can hit the Griffin with my LRM-5. So just back up slightly. And then let's use the multi-target ability. So first things first, let's go ahead and target the Jenner as A. And then we're going to target the Griffin as B. And our B weapon is going to be the LRM-5. That's pretty good. 65% for all three weapons. Let's go ahead and fire.
Engaging multiple enemies.
Unfortunately, we missed with the PPC yet again, but hey, we got the medium laser, so that's not too bad. Let's see if any of these LRM-5s hit. Looks like some of them are going to hit. Good damage. And because we only fired one weapon, we still got the advantage of our breaching shot, so that actually worked out unintentionally in our favor. Okay, here comes the Locust. He's going to be able to get in range and fire upon our Vindicator, but yet again, I'm fine with that. Locust is not that much of a threat. Frontal attack on a Vindicator. Alright, so we've been using our Jenner quite a bit here, and as a result, the Jenner is extremely heated up. So I think we're going to go for a disengage at this point. And to do that, I have to keep in mind that the Griffin has jump jets, so just moving around this hill is not really going to work for me as well, because the Griffin could just jump on top of the hill and attack the Jenner. But with this many evasion charges, it might be worth it.
Confirmed.
This is just going to give us an opportunity to cool off a bit, so maybe we can get a flank attack on the Griffin if it pays too much attention to somebody else. Okay, now the Jenner's going to be able to go. It's probably going to go after my Commando. No, it's going to go... Yeah, it is going to go after the Commando. We might take some damage here that I'm not going to be too happy about. In this case, maybe a good idea to disengage as well with that mech. Okay, at this point, it doesn't really matter who I move first. We just don't want the Commando to continue to take damage, of course. So at this point, I could continue to be aggressive and I could go after the Jenner, but I don't think that's the right call. I think the right call here is to sprint away as much as we can. Trying to decide what the best sprinting course is. I think I'm going to sprint over in this direction.
Got it.
I'm hoping this rock will block line of sight from the Griffin. It might not, but if not, then hey, we've got a strong evasion charge build up. Alright, so now we have two opponents in front of me that I have to worry about. We've got the Locust and the Jenner. Now the Jenner is very vulnerable, it's given me its back.
Standing by.
And I very much would like to go after it if I can. In this case, I could multi-target, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to multi-target, I'm going to use the PPC against the Jenner, and I'm going to use my SRM-4 against the Locust.
Roger.
Go ahead and use that multi-target. So you're going to be A, and you're going to be B, and we're going to switch the SRM-4 to B. So now we've got a 45% chance to hit that one and 55% chance to hit the other. Not great chances, but we're going to go for it anyway.
Splitting targets.
Okay, that was fantastic. I think we just straight up... Oh, okay, now we just blew off a torso section, which at this point, I don't know if that leaves with the Jenner much firepower left. Let's hit some. Okay, we did move a little bit out in the open here, so unfortunately we're taking heavy damage on the Panther.
That shot got past my armor.
Maybe didn't think that particular move out as well as I should have. Focusing a little bit too much on the ability to multi-target. Now in this case I could move up and I could establish more of a line of sight on that Griffin. I think in this case, the right call is to go after these two. I'm not going to be able to use my LRM-5, unfortunately, but I should be able to use my medium laser, my PPC, my small laser. All of that should be able to be used this turn. I'm going to try and get a Jenner kill here.
Move order confirmed.
Okay, so multi-target again. We're going to use against the Jenner and against the Locust. Now the Locust, small laser is where we're going to be firing. I think we're going to turn off the LRM altogether, as we don't really need that. And I think this is not a bad setup. Medium laser PPC against the Jenner and a small laser against the Locust. Not going to do a lot of damage here, but hey, it's something.
Splitting targets.
Boom, dead. Perfect. So a little bit of wasted damage there, but that's okay. We weren't for sure going to hit with that PPC. So now things are looking pretty good for us. We do have some damage mechs here, though, so I can't take this stuff too lightly. Now, the Locust is going to be able to get in behind me. This could do heavy damage to the Panther, which is not what we're looking for. And this is the problem when you're facing a heavier opponent, is they can do things like this against you. Fortunately for me, though, my rear armor is fresh. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to go ahead and move with Kraken first because we want to be able to get out of the situation we're in right now. So I'm going to go ahead and jump as far away as I can. I'm going to face my enemy, and we're going to go after this Locust, who is fairly vulnerable. Yet again, light mechs have to take a direct path, so in this case, I'm going to turn off the PPC because it's going to heat me up too much, but I am going to fire this SRM-4. The Locust is out in the open and vulnerable, so hopefully if we can get some good damage here, we'll... could have been better, but... Okay, so in this case, reserving is actually the best course of action for both the Commando and the Jenner. As my Vindicator isn't in a spot that we're super vulnerable. Ideally, I'd like to go after the Locust here with my Vindicator if I can. So the first thing I'm going to take a look at is, can Showboat really get into a spot to do much of anything for me this turn? No, unfortunately, because my enemy moved in a different direction. So what I'm going to do is just move up, and I'm going to use my sensor lock to burn through evasion charges of the Griffin here. And that's part of the reason why you have these scout abilities on these attackers. So in those turns that they're not in position, they can still do something. In this case, we can get in range with our Jenner, get a nice back attack on our opponent, and that's exactly what we're going to do. And the Locust is out of position, more than likely not able to counterattack our Jenner anyway. So this is a very good attack. We're going to go ahead and fire what we can get away with, which looks like the medium lasers in this case.
Firing at the enemy six.
We did manage to get some hits there. Unfortunately, most of that on the leg.
That's a critical hit.
Although we did manage to damage a heat sink, which I guess is good in some ways. Okay, in this case,
Commander.
I would like to, I think, jump, get a little bit further back, and we might use our multi-target ability here again because of the close range of the Locust. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. So you're going to be A, and you're going to be B. We're going to turn on the LRM-5 to A. Heat is a little bit of a concern, though, so I think I'm going to turn off the small laser, but I'm going to switch this weapon here to B. That way we can fire most of our weapons. So A and B. Let's go ahead and fire.
Engaging multiple enemies.
Okay, and now the medium laser on the Locust. Managed to hit it in the leg. Okay, now the Locust is going to be able to go again, and more than likely it's going to be able to flank me again. There's not a whole lot I can do about that. Other than, of course, kill the Locust, which that will happen hopefully eventually here. Okay, in this case, we do not want our Jenner to be in trouble, so we're going to sprint here. And I'm going to sprint the long way around, because this might give us an opportunity to do something a little bit later. Probably going to reserve the commando. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and move with Kraken. Ideally, we want to move into a range that we can hit with our PPC as well. Which it looks like we're going to be able to do. And we're going to focus fire on the Locust, trying to kill it, if we can. I don't know if we can get away with that heat-wise, so I think I'm just going to fire the PPC in this case. It has a higher chance of hitting and will do more damage. Okay, we did manage to knock that leg out, so that will reduce the initiative of our opponent for next turn, as well as knocking them down, making them a nice, juicy target for our Vindicator. In this case, we're going to go ahead and reserve.
Right,
The Griffin will be able to move up here and do some damage to our Vindicator. There's not a whole lot we can do about that. Okay. Now the question is, can I move into a position to really take advantage of the Locust? I'm not sure I really can. Because ideally we want to have that PPC in range, and this is a real problem with the Vindicator. Now this does give me an opportunity to cool off, of course. So as much as I would like to stomp the Locust while it's down, not a good idea, because the Griffin will be able to get my back next turn, and I've already been shot in the back a couple times, so that might hurt a lot. It would do good damage, though, against the Locust. So, you know what? As hot as I am, I'm actually really tempted to do this move. And we can move here, so that might be the better call. Let's do that move. I'm going to go ahead for it. We got 95% chance to hit with both attacks here. Unfortunately, I lose the ability to call my shot. But there's a stomp. And already dead. Maybe not. I'm not exactly sure where the ammo explosion happened. Okay, that did kill. Okay. Alright, well, let's go ahead and move the... Honestly, it doesn't matter where I think I move at this point, so I'm going to go ahead and sprint. I don't think the Griffin can attack me even if it wanted to at this point. So I'm just going to build up as many evasion charges as I can. If it turns around and goes after my commando, it goes after my commando. And it is what it is. Okay, in this case, I think we're actually better off reserving, allowing the opponent to go.
Holding for an advantage.
More than likely, it will come up and attack my Vindicator. So it might go after the Panther. There it goes. Going to take some damage. This gives me the opportunity to do a lot of damage myself.
Heavy hits, Commander.
Okay, now it's going to be the Commando's turn. The Commando might not be able to get in range, so instead what we're going to do... Oh, actually, we are able to get in range. So never mind. Well, I'm going to save that one because that could do really heavy damage. So, as a matter of fact, I could focus fire. And that would burn through the evasion. You know what? That's actually a really good call.
Waiting for orders.
So, we're going to move here. Then I'm going to use the focus. That will give me a really good shot on my opponent. And well worth it as a result. Now, we would have been getting through the cover, so maybe not the best call, but this is really going to be good damage, so I think it's well worth using the focus here, because we might get enough damage. Unfortunately, it was a little too spread out. Okay. Now the question is, can
Yes, Commander.
Paradise with a jump get into a position to do much of anything? Yeah, but we would probably overheat. So I'll save that move for last if it looks like we need it. To be honest with you, though, I think I should just spend my turn positioning and cooling off.
Aye, aye.
All right, let's go ahead and move Kraken first here,
Commander.
because I believe it is my Vindicator that's giving me the line of sight that we have. So
Roger.
I really can't move back too far. I'm gonna just fire the PPC because we can get away with that. Okay, good damage. Now really we want to keep hitting the Griffin in the back if we can.
Awaiting orders.
But unfortunately, I don't think I really can. I may have to just stand still and attack here, because moving at all is really just positioning me. Oh, we could go after an arm. Which side are we? Oh, okay, let's just attack from this side. Ugh, if I do that, though, yeah, I want to move in a way that I can use my PPC, so that's what we're going to do. Gonna turn off the LRM-5 and we'll fire with the other two weapons. We've got good damage here. I don't think this Griffin's gonna last. Matter of fact, I'm just gonna go ahead and
Reporting.
attempt to go for broke here. I know I'm gonna win out initiative with a couple of my mechs, so I'm gonna be able to hit this guy 3 times. So I'm hoping that with my Commando and my Jenner, we'll be able to finish him off this turn. Or next turn, I should say. This is going to be the turn to do it. So we're going to start with Showboat.
Good to go.
I'm going to move nice and close, and we're going to smack this guy in the back. That should do really heavy damage.
All weapons are go.
Okay, and then a follow-up attack from the Jenner might be enough to finish this guy. Although I don't know if it will be attacking rear armor now that I think about it. So, unfortunately, the enemy mech getting knocked down might actually work against me. But we're going to go for broke here and try and get a kill regardless. And that does mean that all of my mechs will now be able to attack before he gets an opportunity. I'm going to go ahead and go for the center torso, try and see if we can get a kill. And we got it. Alright, we managed to get through and have all of our mechs still alive. As a matter of fact, we only took, as far as damage goes, I believe it was just the... I'll have to take a look here. Alright, so we did get our armor knocked through on a few of our mechs, but otherwise we came through without any real severe damage on any of our mechs, and it seemed like the strategy did okay, even though our opponent had exactly what they needed to be able to counter us to a certain extent, which was mobility. Now, I'd like to see this tested out in heavier battles, because you're going to see more of a distinct difference between my opponent and my mechs, and the fact that I'm going to be focusing on mobility, and they more than likely will not. So as a result, we're going to be able to do this attack and fade strategy probably a little bit more effectively. In any case, I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. This is Mouse Gunner, signing out.